A small message from me before we kick off with today's video. iDRIVEACLASSIC is proud to be sponsored and insured by Adrian Flux. If you haven't heard of Adrian Flux before, they're the UK's leading specialist motor insurance broker, covering everything from classic and vintage cars right through to heavily modified sports cars. So whether you're in a Morris Marina, a 90s retro runabout, or something with a bit more oomph under the bonnet, give them a call for your next policy. I've popped a link to their site in the description box below. Hi guys, it's Steph from iDRIVEACLASSIC, and today I'm back with a car that landed in my inbox. I knew nothing about it, but the club came to me and they were so excited and they were so passionate about this car. I thought, I need to go and see it. I need to find out what all the hype is about. So today I'm introducing you to the Volvo 480, but it's not just any Volvo 480, it's the 480 Turbo Auto SR. So what does that mean? It means we've got a turbo, it's automatic, and we've got a sunroof. So we're prepped for every adventure. This car has totally changed my perception of what I thought of Volvo. It's put Volvo in a whole new light for me, and it was such an interesting car, I just had to come and show you it. So in today's video, I'm going to take you on a bit of a tour of the Volvo 480. The 480 is a really interesting car, for if nothing else, it completely goes against that safe vanilla image that many non-car people have of Volvo as a manufacturer. It's not only an interesting car to look at, especially for the time, but it's Volvo's first front-wheel drive car in an era where, interestingly, they were still extolling the virtues of rear-wheel drive motoring to the American audience. The car took 6 years to come to fruition, and although it was launched to press in autumn of 1985, it took nearly 9 months to then become available to the buying public. So there was a lot of build up to the interesting 480. Now, we've mentioned the front wheel drive being a first for Volvo on this one, but Volvo also boasted it was the first car, or certainly one of the first, to be sold in Europe with bumpers which met American safety requirements. We've talked a lot about these American safety requirements in other videos, so it's very interesting that although Volvo was still going out there with something different, they were true to their roots in putting safety first. Sadly, due to the exchange rates in the late 80s, the 480 never got to be the success that it should have been in the American market, which is a real shame because, as you'll see in this video, it's actually an incredibly interesting and forward-thinking car. And you've got all of that, but you've also got a really interesting fact, which was that it's Volvo's only ever car to be made with pop-up headlights. And really, it's worlds away from the usual Volvo that buyers would expect. And it was sold with marketing spiel like sporty styling and sleek hatch body, very different to that usual boxy styling that you would have got on a Volvo. Now, if you live in the UK like me, you'll know that you very rarely ever spot a 480, which is actually very interesting and unusual because of all the 480s sold, 30%, which accounts for around 22,000 cars, were sold to the UK market. Now, the car was sold across the board from 1986 until 1995. And when you went and bought the car, you could have either picked a 5-speed manual box from Renault or a 4-speed auto. The car we're testing today is an automatic. Now, at the start, the 480s were all fitted with the 1.7 litre Renault engine, which kind of makes sense when you think about that transmission unit. Now, that gave it a pretty fair output. You got 109 horsepower and a top speed of 118 miles per hour. It wasn't particularly racy to get to that, but that was your top number. Now, the car we're testing, as we'll discuss later on, has the turbocharger. It was an option from 1988 and it increased the output to 120 horsepower. And then they carried on with the engine modifications and refinements, and in 1993 Volvo introduced a 2-litre engine on these, but that never got the turbocharger which was put on the 1.7 Renault engines. Although the engines were tweaked, the body style was not, so the car you see before us today is exactly how it looked from the start of production to the end of production. It was just a 3-door simple hatchback styling. But really, as you can see, it's got an underrated amount of legroom for both the people in the front of the car and the people in the back. And I feel like I had to make that very clear for you because that is a massive upsell on this. Now, it wasn't just the engine, which was something that Volvo had gone out to market on these, and the suspension had input from Lotus, which actually for the time gives this interesting little car rave reviews on both the handling and the ride quality. And it's something that even decades later, when I test it today, I do pick up on the drive as a massive plus point. Now, unfortunately, it came to production end in 1995, but it still has a massive fan base. It's got one of the most active owners groups I've ever experienced online, and it's still affordable for classic buyers. So in the video today, I'm going to show you the car, give you a bit of a fair once over of what it's like to own, what it's like to drive, some of the pitfalls, and also tell you about some of the saving graces of those electrical gremlins, which absolutely everybody always brings up. But first of all, I wanted to introduce you to Edie. She's one of the first female owners we've had on in quite some time. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to Edie and talk you through our little chat that we had. Now, I wanted to introduce you to the owner of the car, Edie. Now, we don't have many women on our Driver Classic, which is a proper shame. And you were saying to me that this is your fourth 480. So what's going on?
Yes, this is my fourth 480. I loved them when I was younger, and I went through three between 2005 and 2016, and they weren't the best, so they weren't ones that really were going to last very long. And then originally, when I decided to get another one, it was try and put a lot of money into the purchase, try and find one that I haven't got to do a lot on, that you can hit the ground running. None of them are like that, by the way, no matter how much you pay. And yeah, so this is my preservation piece. This is one I want to try and keep on the road for as long as possible and to do everything I can to keep it in good condition.
Now, I want to pick up on a word that you used there. You said the word preservation. Now, you were telling me that the European 480 Forum have some sort of preservation programme. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah. They are, at the moment, we've got a rescue programme where we are pooling money and we are purchasing not ridiculously expensive cars that need saving. And then Jeff on the forum, wonderful Jeff, he's doing all the mechanical work to get them up to an MOTable standard. They're going through an MOT and then they're then sold on to a new owner who hopefully is somebody who's really looking for a 480. So you haven't got like masses of work to do. You haven't got a lot of work to do at all, obviously, because it'll be on the road. But then it's just it's in your hands to preserve it for the future.
That's fantastic. So if somebody's watching this and would really like to take one of those cars on, how would they make contact with the forum? How would they make contact with Jeff? Like, how do people get matched to these cars?
Yeah, just join the forum, basically. It's a Volvo 480 Europe forum. Join the forum and straight away you will be met. You know, introduce yourself, say what you want, say what you're looking for, and eventually, somewhere along the line, if someone hasn't got anything available right now, one of the rescue cars might be for you, which obviously might take a little bit of time, but there's always, everybody knows what's available at the time if you want a 480.
This feels a little bit like Battersea Dogs Home for cars, isn't it?
Yes.
Right, I really want to show people inside, so we'll flip the camera back round and we'll show people what you've got inside.
Great.
I'm really excited to show this Volvo today because it's like no other Volvo that I've ever seen before. Because when I think of Volvo, I think of practicality, safety, reliability. I don't think of technology central, which is what this car feels like when we first get into it, because there's an awful lot on offer, which means that usually I pretty much whiz through what we've got inside, but today I want to spend a little bit more time showing you all the bits we've got on offer, because there is an awful lot on offer actually. From things like the outside, where we've got follow me home lights, we've got an illuminated key lock which helps you see in the dark when you're trying to put your key in, right through to things like the info centre, which is like nothing else I've ever seen on another car. It's going to be so much fun showing you all this stuff today, and I just hope, because I've not driven the car yet, that it's as much fun to drive and it's as impressive to drive as it looks inside. So first of all, I'm going to start you off over here We've got our glove box over here, so pretty much as we'd expect. But when we come into the centre, this is where things start to get a little bit interesting. So to the top, as many of you will know, I hate when people take out original radios, cassettes, and put something a little bit more modern in. So I was really pleased to see that this still had the original tape player, which might be because it's not had too many owners. So I believe the history on this one is it was in one family for a long time, I think till about the year 2000. And then it was 2000, 2006, and then it moved very quickly through a few people before coming to live with Edie, who is the current owner. So it's nice to see there that original headset is still there. Now, as we come down, we start to see some of that exciting technology. We've got 3 dials here. So we've got the turbo there, the oil pressure, and the amp meter, so we can see if the battery's charging, down into what feels like a very basic heater control pad. But that's fine because, as I've said in other videos, when things start to get complicated, it loses a little bit of the magic. And what struck me as really weird, actually, is we've got all this technology, including the info centre, which I cannot wait to show you, but we've got an analogue clock. So that was a little bit of a surprise. Over to our right, we've got our hazard warning lights. And as we come down, and again, more technology. We've got heated seats, which is very nice on this very cold December day. And as we come down, you'll see we've got some cassette tape storage. Not sure if that's the official name for it, but that's what we're going to call it. So I love looking at people's music when I get in their cars. I'm always silently judging. And actually, there's some really good tapes in here. So if one goes missing, Edie, it definitely fell out on the drive. Now, as you come down, we've got the ashtray, which I can see there is filled with a little doggy pooper scoop bag. And again, I love when you take out people's daily cars because you see where people are hiding bits and pieces. And over there, we've got a cigar lighter as well. Now, this is the auto. We have got a turbo, but this is an auto as well. So we'll show you that before we go out for a drive. And then as we come in front of this is where some of the most exciting technology on this car is. So it all starts off very normal because we have a rev counter, as we probably expect, especially with that turbo. And as we come into the centre, we've got the trip clock, we've got the mileometer, and we've got the speedo as well. And then when we get to the right, this is where it gets interesting because this is our info centre. So let me show you that. So switch it on so I can show you. Now we've got the pad to our left-hand side, so I'll quickly talk you through that. So if you've never seen one before, and I certainly hadn't, that info centre can look a little bit complicated, but actually it all flips around here. So I'm going to tell you what each of these lines represents. It does correlate with the dial, but I thought I would tell you anyway. So this is fuel instantaneous. It tells you what your average consumption is when you're driving on this particular journey. This one here is fuel average. So that gives you a really good indication of what your average fuel consumption is overall. Then you've got speed average. I certainly wouldn't want that on my car. You've got the range. Now, very interestingly, I did ask if this was spot on, and apparently it is. Now, over here, we've got the oil temperature, engine temperature, and the external temperature there as well. So I'll just zoom in there for you. So I'm just going to flick around so you can see how everything changes. So that fuel instantaneous, of course, only shows when you're driving. And then you've got all these across here. It's ingenious. I love this. And then I love that fuel gauge in the middle. I don't know. It's one of the niftiest features I've seen on a car in a long time. I really like that. Now, while some ESs are a 2 litre, all the turbos were a 1.7. So it is a Renault engine under the bonnet, but we'll start it up and you can hear what she sounds like. And it sounds great, actually. So I think we'll use that electric window control and put down that window. We're going to start it up and hear what she sounds like. So it is worth mentioning that we are on auto choke with this, but realistically, when everything's electric and massively technological, would you expect anything less? Let's try again. That sounds really nice. To be fair, it is a really, really nice car. Now I'm going to take you to the back so you can hear what she sounds like when we start her up from the outside. Right, we're going to take this lovely Volvo 480 for a spin. Now you can hear that auto box in action there, but hopefully at some point I'm going to find a little bit of countryside road to take you for a bit of a spin so you can hear what she sounds like, because when you put that foot down and you hear that turbo in action, it's so sporty. Now I know that I talked about that suspension when we were doing the walk around, and I talked about the collaboration with Lotus, and again, even though this car is 30 years old, the suspension on this car is smoother than some of the cars that I've driven that are 20 years newer. And it's not just the suspension that really sells this car, it's the seating position as well. Now I wasn't keen at first because it feels so high up, but actually it becomes quite advantageous because I'm only 5'3", and sometimes I get in cars and I can't see to the end of the bonnet, and it can create a bit of a driving experience where you don't feel entirely confident. But in this car, because I'm so high up and I can see to the end of the bonnet and I can see all around me as well with these large door mirrors, I just feel very confident that I really know what I'm doing with the car. And it's not the smallest of cars either, so that's quite a nice little thing to have. Now the seating position in this has a really good range of adjustment. So Edie had it quite far forward, I've got it quite far back, and not only that as well, because the steering column of the steering wheel with it moves up and down, so again you can adjust that up, and it just feels like a much more tailored driving experience than some of the other cars of this era that we've taken out. Now we've just passed that national speed limit, so I'm going to put my foot down. I definitely couldn't own this car. It's so fun and it's just raring to go all the time that I would definitely be on a speed awareness course probably before I even got the owner's logbook back. It's so much fun. Now, if you've been considering one of these Volvo 480s, it wouldn't be entirely fair of me to do a review without mentioning one of the sticking points of ownership. Everyone that I told that I was doing this video said to me, you must mention the electrics. So because this was a really big leap for Volvo, there's a lot of stuff on here that isn't on other Volvos in terms of the electrics. It was a bit of an exploration time. It was an era where the electrics weren't always quite on point, which means that you can sometimes find yourself forever chasing problems. Even Edie, who's bought a fabulous example, and in my opinion definitely doesn't look its age, has said to me that she's had all sorts of electrical problems, and she said, you know, I've had to do this and I've had to do this, and she spent quite a lot of money and was very open and upfront with me about it, which I admire because I don't always admit all the stuff I have to do on my own car to keep it going. But Edie laid it all bare for me and said I've had to do this, this and this, but she did tell me one thing, which was her saviour. So Edie said to me it wouldn't have been possible to keep this car going and to have solved all my problems without the help of the European 480 Forum. So it's essentially a forum of owners all over Europe, very imaginative there, and they all come together and help each other. And she said, no matter what my problem has ever been, I've always been able to go on that forum and somebody give me a hand. And honestly, it's so important. So it's something that I have talked about in videos before, but if you've got a supportive owners club with a car, it can really make or break your experience with that car. I've owned cars where the support has just not been there, and in fact I wouldn't have even done this video without the 480 forum contacting me. So one of the members contacted me and said, I've been watching your channel for a while and I noticed you haven't done a 480, and he went out there and he did the legwork for me and he did a post on the forum, and that's how I met Edie. And I just think a forum that puts so much effort and so much life into these cars decades after they've been made, to the point where they're actively seeking ways to promote them, they're seeking out new members, they've got massive support in place. I just think that's, to me, if you've got that sort of support, yes, the electrics are a bit of a nightmare, and yes, you will definitely have to fix something if you own one, but if you've got all that support there and such an amazing community, you can almost overlook it, because you know that someone's got your back if something goes wrong. And that's so nice, because there are other cars out there that just don't have that support, they just don't have that club presence. So when I got told about this and seeing them in action and coming together and helping me find information for this video, it was really heartwarming actually. So I just had to tell you about that. So if you do want one of these and you think, can I get away with the electrics or not, can I take one on, know that there is a wealth of support and knowledge there to support you, not only in choosing the right car, but keeping that right car on the road as well. And now that I've driven one, I totally get the hype. It's cool, it's massively more fun than any other Volvo I've ever been in, it's hilarious, it's almost like a sports car but safe. And I would, if you could take it on, if you're an electrician and you want to give it a good go, I would say do it. It's such a laugh, it's really funny, you put your foot down, it's away, the heater is exceptional, and it has just been an absolute laugh to drive today. So thank you so much, ED. Thank you so much to the 480 European Forum. You've all been massively supportive in getting this video together. And if you're watching from home, until next time, take care and drive safely.